What's up? I'm Matt with Let's Talk Music, and I am here with Estevan Vega. I wasn't pausing because I was trying to think, because I forgot your name. I was trying to think of how I was going to do that.
That's all right.
Independent promoter, author. I mean, you got a lot going on, man. And you was just saying that you had another business that was holding you up from this evening. So
Yeah. I'm a
first off,
barber too. My fake job. I tell people that's my fake job, even though that's the one that pays the bills.
right?
Yeah.
So first off, I just wanted to talk about the author thing. You have a series out called what is it? The
Arson
Arson
Saga. Yeah.
Saga,
Yep.
and that's it. Barnes
I'm
and Noble.
actually ironic. It was unintentional. I didn't know we were going to be talking about this, but I actually was wearing my arson shirt today,
Nice.
and I didn't know we were even going to be talking about that. So I didn't. That was not a plug for that. It just happens. It's funny.
Oh, you can plug all you want, buddy. It's, I mean, it's something that I find interesting. I mean, it's not just all about music. This is, all about you. So, um, it says that was already by 21, you know, had these books published and just doing, your thing. I mean, what's that based on?
So I started writing in the fifth grade. My English teacher at the time gave us these writing essays and short stories and all that kind of stuff. And then the big project for the year was that we would compile them all together and make kind of like our own little book out of it. So a lot of the kids did just essays, short stories, and then they just, nothing was like cohesive. It was just combined, like a compilation, basically.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I wrote a couple short stories, knew that they were terrible, told my dad that my teacher was reading the best ones in front of the class, and she never picked mine. And so he helped me write a couple, and then I kind of took it from there, and then wrote like I want to say 12 or 13 chapters, chunks, 5 or 10 pages each. And then that was my final English project. My teacher would read a lot of my stuff in front of the class because she said it was one of the best. And so that kind of encouragement led me to thinking that um, maybe it could be a path for me to go down. At the time, I was really hardcore into sketching, drawing. I bought a bunch of like comics and had a bunch of comics. Um, I remember in like I want to say when the first X-Men movie came out, they came out with like a complete collection of like all the X-Men characters throughout the last 50 or 60 years. And so I bought that book and I would just go through and find cool pages and draw them. But I found that like I thought I was pretty good at the time. This is like fourth, fifth grade, but I felt that I was a better writer and that I had a better shot at quote unquote making it, whatever that means, if I followed the writing path. And so I kind of put sketching on the back burner at that point and never really went back to it, even though my goal at one point was to like work for Marvel or DC or Disney or one of those companies. Um, and I started writing hardcore. And sixth grade, started writing my what would become my first published book. Worked on that until I was 15. That came out when I was 15. My next book came out at 18, and then the first arson book came out when I was 21. And then wrote a couple books in between. Then the sequels to the arson books, and I've been kind of on hiatus for a while and doing music stuff. So I still write. I've started 3 books in the last 10 years and I haven't published any of them. Um, but it's always like in the back of my head, I should be writing more. But it's like, it's tough, man. It's juggling the music thing and juggling, my day job. And then I also have a 9-year-old son and my wife. And it's a lot, man. It's tough. I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it builds up fast. So, what got you into the music? It's Capulet Entertainment.
Yep. Yep.
Um, you're an independent promoter, which I love the independent deal. That's pretty much all I do. I mean, if a big band comes along, I'm not gonna say I won't take them, but
Sure.
I'm more of trying to get people that are making their way, heard, seen, noticed, whatever. So you founded that in 2012, and
Yeah.
you've done numerous events in New England. So,
Mhm.
what part of New England you from?
I live in Connecticut.
Okay, okay. So, yeah,
So we've done shows in Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. Yeah, all New England shows that I've done.
so how did you get into that?
So I've been a fan of music for a very long time. My brother bought me a CD. I want to say it was like 97, 98. So I was like 8 or 9. And I didn't realize how much like that was gonna kind of, I don't know, get me into music,
Mhm.
the way that it did. But I became a huge fan after that CD, and then I would go out and buy, other records and stuff. But I I, I found a connection with rock music specifically. I loved the sound. I loved I'm a writer, so I love the lyrical content most of the time. um, and I don't know, I found a kinship with music and with rock especially. And it's funny because as I think about it, like going back even further, I I tried doing the drums. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a drum teacher at the school, and my parents signed me up because I wanted to be a drummer. And I didn't stick with it, and I had a hard time with the coordination. And I don't have a ton of patience. And if I feel like if I can't get something relatively quickly, sometimes I just walk away from it, which is kind of ironic that I became a writer because it's such a long and arduous task to begin a book and then finish it.
Right.
But I gave up on drumming, and then I tried piano for a while and gave up on that. So unfortunately, I never stuck with it. I do think that I would have been pretty good if I stuck with it. Music definitely runs in my family. I'm one of four brothers. Two of my brothers, one of them's a singer and a piano player. The other one played piano growing up. So music is in my family. My mom sang. So it's kind of always kind of been there. But I would say that when Capulet started in 2012, because in 2010, when the first Arson book came out, I did a release show and I made it kind of a concert with the book signing release.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we had a bunch of rock bands there in Connecticut. And I really loved that experience. And so I was doing a book signing in 2011, 2012, and there was a kid there, a younger kid like myself, but a couple of years younger than I am. And he said he was starting to get into the promotion business, and he had done a couple shows. And he's like, if we partner together, I think this could become something for Connecticut. And so, I was young and naive, and I was like, sure, let's do this. So we got together. Then there was this other kid involved, but he wasn't as much involved as as the first kid and I were. And then we get the venue together for our first show. We booked the lineup, and then the week before the show, or the week of the show rather, I get a text, and he's like, I'm out. I don't think I can do this. And so I kind of had to move forward by myself. And then the day of the show, the headliner didn't show up, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is something I want to get involved in, but I ignored all of the bad omens and I pushed through it anyway.
Right.
Um, and so I did shows on and off for the next like year or so. And then um, at the time, I was surviving only on my book sales. So I would do a book signing that would get me to the next show or the next book signing. And basically, I was just using the money from one to feed the other. And it was just really hard. And then I kind of put music on the back burner for a little while. And then I went to barbering school and got my cosmetology license. And because my dad owned a barber shop. And so he's like, you need income and I need to kick you out soon. So why don't you go get your barber license so we can work together at least. And then you could pursue your other artistic endeavors on the side. And I was so reluctant to do that because I told him multiple times, I'm like, dude, I know that once I start doing that full time, it's like the music is a backseat and my writing is going to take a backseat just because I know I can't be so divided on everything and succeed at all of them. You know
Right.
what I mean? But I needed to do it for money, and so I did that. And so Capulet was kind of just chilling there for like 5 years. I released one of my books, the third book of the Arson series. I released that independently under my Capulet Entertainment imprint.
Okay.
But apart from that, I didn't do anything with Capulet until 2018, and then I started it up again. And then we went full throttle until COVID shut us down again. And then at the end of 2021, I did my first concert back, and I've been going, full speed ahead since then. So it's been an up and down journey. I feel like Frodo Baggins and Samwise, man. I'm eventually gonna get to Mordor, but it's gonna take 3 movies.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Sorry if that was long winded.
Oh, you're fine. No, Allison actually sent me the promo for your one back in July
Yeah.
and asked me if I would put it on my Facebook page and my website, and I did so. Uh,
Awesome. Thank you.
I know that one included bands like Memphis Mayfire, All That Remains, which is a Connecticut band, Amberlin.
Yep.
So, some pretty big names in there. And I mean, that one was much larger than the one that you're having Saturday. The one you're having Saturday is the Back to School Bash 2023.
Yep. Sunday. Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Just
okay.
the 10th. Yeah. Anyways, that one's got Crown the Empire, The World Alive, and more. So, tell me about this one that's coming up.
Yeah. So Capulet Fest was definitely our biggest show to date. It's the second year we've done it. And then the Back to School Bash is also, this is the second year we've done it. So last year we did it in Providence. This year it's in Connecticut. Last year we had Alisana and A Scarlet Drive, Scarlett O'Hara, Convictions. It was a good lineup. And then this year, like you said, Crown the Empire and He is Legend in Spirit. So our goal is always to kind of like have a big band or big bands, and then also throw in some New England bands,
Mhm.
so that the scene kind of stays fresh and stays alive. Um, but as far as this event specifically, it's going to be at the Webster. It's in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a great venue. This is actually the first year. Um, this is probably my third or fourth show there this year, but we kind of broke ground this year. I've been booking, like I told you, for the better part of 10 years on and off. And this is the first year that we've been able to get into the Webster. So I'm really excited to kind of begin that partnership with them, working on shows with them. I'm excited for the lineup that we have this weekend. I think it's going to be killer. Um, some of the smaller bands that people may not know about, if not for me, they just got signed to In Vogue Records. They're on the come up for sure. In Spirit, they used to be Vanna. They used to operate under that name, Vanna. So some people from the New England area may know them. He is Legend's been around since I was in high school. So I jumped at the chance to have them. Um, Gina Fritz, she's from Connecticut. She's awesome. Her and her band played Capulet Fest in July. So I mean, we got a lot of good bands. Over the Moon, they're from New York, so they're playing this too. So we got a good lineup. We're excited about it, and we just hope people come out and mosh with us, get sweaty.
So
Tell
what
you for sure.
what size is the Webster? Is it a large venue or
It's a good mid-size. It's smaller than the Palladium, if people know that,
Mhm.
Worcester. We've also done, like I said, last year, I've done a lot of shows at Fete Music Hall in Providence. It's bigger than Fete, smaller than the Palladium. So it's kind of like it's a mid-range venue. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I've done quite a few bands from New England. Let me see, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Dead by Wednesday.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
play Capulet Fest.
yeah.
Yep.
Freaking I've talked to them guys and just great guys. I mean, love the music and it's just getting to hear all this stuff, man. Like I started this with just like nothing. I was like, hey, a local band, Boba Flex. They actually are now the Lonely Ones, but I started with them and just started working my way up. And like, I just started getting these publicists that were sending me requests like, hey, what about this band? What about this band? And now I mean, I've got 1,400 emails that I have to go through
Wow, that's awesome.
where I've kind of taken a break. I just did one with Udo Dirk Snyder from Accept and the band UDO, which has got pretty good views. But again, it's more about me trying to promote what I can. as well as you are, is like, you're saying I got these major bands, and then, I get a couple of New England bands, local bands in that just got signed. I do believe that I've done somebody that was signed with In Vogue Records. I mean, so it all plays into like the same thing, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate what you do as far as being able to get these people out there and heard, because I mean there is a lot of fantastic local bands and up and coming bands that people just haven't heard of because they're not getting the airtime or anything.
Yep.
And it's people like you and I that are able to get them. You more so than me, because I don't have the connections, but
Yeah.
I mean, I do this because I love music. I love talking to musicians and people about music, because my wife is like, she's nah. That's why I do this, because she was like, you need to find some way to get your outlet with your music, because I'm not into it like that.
Yep.
Like, I understand. So, what started out as a blog is now, I'm trying to get a podcast going. So
Awesome.
yeah,
We'll get there. How long you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about, I don't know, 2 years. I something like that. I think you're my 220 something.
So,
And
dude, you're doing a lot in 2 years, man. That's
yeah, yeah,
so.
there for a minute, man. I was like you, I was burying myself, dude. I would have one at like 7:45, 8:30, 9, and I'd have 4 or 5 in a day, and an evening, and I'm just like, I worked all day, and I come home and I'm like,
Yep.
I got time to throw some food down my neck and get started, and
Yep.
I try to. One of the things that Allison has always told me that she likes about me is that, I do my research. She sends me the press release, and I go based on what's on that. Plus, I Googled you, so I found some other things that weren't in the press release. I try to be as prepared as possible. I don't
Yeah.
try to come in like, duh, what do you do? You know,
Who are you?
but
Then you mix the name up with the other guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
um it's just, it's been a blast. And like I said, I really appreciate people like yourself that, get these guys heard and get them out there playing, because I know that, man, the music industry's changed so much, where,
Yeah.
we're not doing album sales anymore.
I
There's
know.
people that are making physical copies, but they're making their money from playing in merch.
Yep.
And obviously you got your own line of merch with your shirt there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because like everything, it's weird because there's another way where music inspired my other art of book writing. You know what I mean? Like uh I modeled my book covers after, movie posters and after album arts for bands, you
Hmm.
know. And so that's how I modeled like my book covers. And then when it came to like t-shirts, this is one of like 20 different designs we did for the arson books. And I even have a bunch of other ones that we never that never went to print, that I've just always been like, in the back of my head, like maybe we'll release it, maybe not. Um, and it was always based on like band t-shirts and how their art was. And so it's like I look back at even that, and it's like, man, even that music was inspiring me, like almost kind of like subconsciously, you know what I mean? And yeah, even Capulet, we have merch with Capulet stuff too. So yeah, merch is a big part of it. It's how it's how people who don't know you kind of can get introduced to you
Right.
by seeing someone wear something that, oh, that's a cool design. I remember I was at a movie theater not too long ago, and I was in line, and I wasn't even thinking about the shirt I was wearing, but I was wearing the Capulet Fest shirt from last year, and the girl who was ringing me out, or ringing out the guy ahead of me doing the popcorn and stuff, she was like looking at it for like 30 seconds. She's like, oh, that's cool. Is that this? Is that that? And so I got to talk to her about it. I was like, no, it was a festival that I did, and so they're conversation starters too, in addition to being cool, to
Right.
wear. So it's cool.
So, I mean, festivals are actually becoming huge in the United States now. I know forever it was only like Europe and South America, but I mean, you got DWP that's putting on shit all over the country, and more people are popping up. Um, how do you, or do you feel like you're in competition with them at all, or you just doing your thing?
So it's kind of weird because I first got the idea for what would become Capulet Fest like the first year I was doing shows. I at I want to say it was December, I think, of 2012, right around the time I did my first show. I was in some small club that's no longer there in Danbury. I was talking to some buddies of mine who were in a band that is no longer a band anymore. And we were talking about I said, man, I would love to create a festival like a mini Warp Tour, something that's small like that, or well, something like that, but on a smaller scale. You know what I mean? Um, and at the time, it was, it, it was when I was really pushing my books hard, right? So it was focused around arson. So I was like, hey, well, I'll call it Arson Fest. And I actually did Arson Fest one time that January. I think it was that January or that February. I think it was January of 2013. And so that was kind of like the small seed, you know, of what would eventually become. But that was the only time that I had done something that was fest like, 8, 9, 10 bands in one show. And then I kind of forgot about it for many years, you know. Um, I was just doing smaller shows, just trying to, get my name out there and develop rapport with bands and agents and managers and that sort of thing. And then I was cutting the hair of I was cutting the hair of a chaplain who goes around to different speedways and basically prays for the drivers and
Hmm.
tries to develop a relationship with the drivers and goes to funerals when someone, God forbid, something happens and performs weddings on the drivers and, just kind of integrates into that scene. And he was telling me, why don't you try doing a festival? And I was like, I've thought of that, maybe I should. And he's like, why don't you try doing it at a speedway? I know some speedways. And so he actually kind of steered me towards doing it at a speedway, which I had never even thought of. And then once we started investigating what that might look like, that's when I actually learned about how many other festivals there were. Because in my head, like there really were no festivals in New England, not to the scale of what you're describing. Like when you say DWP festivals, not
Right.
like not like Rockville, not like Louder Than Life. There are no festivals like that. The Warp Tour was like the last of that type of festival to
Hmm.
come through this area. Um, but definitely nothing that was recurring every year where it was a big deal. All of New England shows up. Not, definitely not. We would have big shows, I remember they had Rock and Shock. I remember that was in Worcester. They've had other ones too, but nothing that has had sustainability for
Right.
5, 10, 15 years, nothing like that. And so it wasn't even in my head to do a speedway, but that's how the speedway happened. We went to one other speedway. They didn't seem like they were stoked to do the show, to do Capulet Fest there. And then we went to this speedway in Thompson, and they were open to it, and they were really cool to work with. The owners were cool, and the manager and the staff, everybody was cool. The town official who we met with was cool, and everyone seemed to be pretty behind it. So, as far as being competitive, yes, I do feel like even though I'm probably the only one like what I'm trying to do in New England,
Hmm.
yes, there might be other smaller events. I know that there is New England Hardcore Fest, but as far as like doing an outside event that's multiple days, there really isn't much like Capulet Fest. So on one hand, I don't think we're doing that. There's a lot to compete with, but on the other hand, when you're talking big festivals, people travel to them, they fly out to them. So like I know I cut the hair of people who fly out to Rockville, who flew out to When We Were Young Fest, who fly out or drive out to Incarceration, which is closer to where you are.
Right.
So I definitely hear about these other festivals um, from people in New England traveling to them because over the years, or Blue Ridge is another one.
Mm.
Over the years, they have developed, in the scene and in the culture, and I'm hoping that we get to that point. I think for us, I think we can definitely get there. I just think it's one of those things where you have to survive the years of famine before you get to the years of harvest. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're planting seeds right now that I don't think we'll see the trees for a bit. But I think when we do, I think it'll be massive. I think it can be massive.
Right.
Uh, so that's my prayer anyway.
So, like, I mean, what all is entailed in doing a festival? I mean, obviously booking groups and stuff like that, and setting up a venue. But I mean, when you think of this, especially like the Capulet Fest, I mean, it's what is your like primary idea when you sit down and say, okay, this is who I want, this is what I want to do. How does that come to
So
fruition?
yeah, so I think it helps if you start with a mental illness. I
Yeah.
think I think anybody who wants to get into this line of work has to be a little bit crazy. It's kind of like being a politician or wanting to be president. You got to be a little crazy to want that job,
Right.
uh, because uh, it's a lot of pushing a boulder up a hill, and then it falls back down the hill. You got to push it back up, and then you get really stoked and really excited, and then you get depressed, and you're like, oh crap, it didn't work out the way I thought, and but I think just the nuts and bolts of it. Um, it's good to start with a clear vision. I had, having the multiple shows and the multiple years of booking gigs before under my belt, I had a rough idea. And then I partnered with another guy who has been in the industry for many, many years, who, kind of propelled me a little bit more than I had the ability to propel myself at the time. Because, over the last decade, I've had a chance to foster some relationships. And then there's other relationships that I hadn't gotten to yet, or perhaps it was a closed door previously. But now that they know this other person, you know what I mean? So it
Right.
kind of goes with the old like saying, hire people who are great at what they do.
Yeah.
You and as a business owner, I understand that definitely. Um, you want to hire people who are skilled at whatever task you're setting them to, right? So in this case, we were partnering on it, and that's it, partnering as far as the talent buying portion of it, right?
Hmm.
There were some people that I booked, some people that he booked. Most of them, I let him book, because some agents just knew him. So I definitely think that if you're going to go and try to attack a Goliath like a music festival, definitely have people in your corner. That's a big one. Have people in your corner who are supportive. It helps when you have a spouse who's supportive. Um,
Yes.
my wife was very supportive. Scared at times because it's such a big undertaking, and you get overwhelmed sometimes, but definitely supportive. And then this other person who came alongside me to really help flesh out what this lineup could be, because I definitely had there's some bands that I wanted for last year that we weren't able to, through schedule conflicts, or maybe the money wasn't right at the time, or the deal just fell through, and we were able to get them this year, which was pretty cool. So just seeing those relationships, being fostered and growing has been great. But as far as, I mean, to do a festival of that scale, you got to give yourself like 9 months. It's kind of like having a baby. You know, you get pregnant with the idea of doing a festival, and then you got 9 months to figure it out. Like, how the heck am I going to do this?
Right. I like that.
And so we, like, pretty much right after the first Capulet Fest, I was already thinking about, okay, what could I do better next year? How could I scale this up? What could I do to make it bigger? What other types of things? So I knew that I wanted to have vendors. I knew that I wanted to have um, uh, multiple days and multiple stages. You know, my wife is like, well, how about fireworks? I was like, cool, I didn't think of that. Let's do fireworks. So we were just trying to, like, in every area, try to just step it up to the next level, from production to multiple stages to an outside stage, an inside stage, to having some vendors there. Like in every capacity, we tried to just make it bigger, doing a VIP meet and greet packages, having specialty bathrooms for people, having water available and charging stations, and, like, things that some people might not have ever thought of. I know there's some of those things I didn't think of until we actually started fleshing it out and talking about it. Like, okay, well, what do other festivals offer, and what's missing from those guys, and what can we do that they're doing well, and things like that.
Mhm.
But I would say once you get the idea, then you get the team, and then you get the venue, then you start attacking the bands. Find bands that you want, and then find bands. I would say something I definitely learned this time around: don't only go for bands that you love, go for bands that the scene recognizes and will come out and support.
Right.
So that's a big one. Definitely, I'm strong as far as make sure that there's always a local element. Tie it into the community, tie it into the local culture of the bands and other bands in the area within. Like, so for me, Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island, New England. I wanted to make sure that I had bands from this area in addition to the national heavy hitters. Um, and then just market the crap out of it and do a lot of praying. I hope it works out.
Hell yeah. All right, buddy. Well, we're just about out of time. I got my notification saying that I'm running low on time, and
Oh shoot, I talk too much. I'm sorry, man.
you're
Dang.
fine. And you froze up too. Your picture did. So
Oh really? Okay.
yeah. So people are going to see you. You kind of got your eyes closed, like you're sleeping.
Oh, yeah. I've been asleep. I've been sleep talking this whole interview.
Right, right.
Is it better
So,
now?
it's still frozen. So
Still, I don't know. It's great on my end. I'm sorry, man. Maybe it's the connection.
it might be. I'm not sure, but
I
anyway,
hope it. I hope it paused on a good angle of my face.
it
I don't
did.
have very many good angles.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time. It was a great talk. You filled me in on a lot of stuff I didn't know about festivals. And the fact that like you're an author also, that's really cool. I don't come across that too much in interviewing people that are involved with music. So I really appreciate it, man. And best of luck on Sunday, and
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
definitely, man. Back to school bash is happening Sunday. Look for Capulet Fest next year in 2024. Thank you so much for having me on this. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
Hey, man, thank you.
All right. Have a good night.